March 14th, 1976. Merlin Santana is born to Leah and Domingo Santana, immigrants from the Dominican Republic who came to America in search of a better life. They ended up settling down in Washington Heights, New York, an area known for its rich Dominican culture. However, Merlin was born prematurely, and the doctor told his mother that he had a 50% chance of survival. The doctor further stated that if he survived, it would be nothing short of a miracle. By the grace of God, he was born healthy and without any complications, and so his mother named him Merlin after the mythical magician. She picked this name because his birth and presence were magical. Merlin was a happy child who had an amazing personality and warm presence. But his environment was different, and it tried to work against him. You see, Merlin grew up in Washington Heights in the late 70s and 80s, and at that time, the city was riddled with gangs, drug dealers, and addicts. Just like any loving mother, Leah was ready to fight for her son's future and keep him off the streets. So she implemented a curfew for him, disciplined him when necessary, and enrolled him in extracurricular activities to keep him busy, where the latter would eventually pay off and change Merlin's life forever. At the tender age of 3, Merlin would cross paths with a talent scout who would encourage his mother to take him to an audition for a fast food ad campaign. Merlin impressed the casting director and got the job, and since then his phone never stopped ringing. The fact that he was bilingual and spoke both Spanish and English fluently made him stand out and get more jobs. Eventually 1990 rolled in and Merlin would get his big break through a play called Hey Little Walter, where Merlin was the star of the show. Bill Cosby saw Merlin's performance and he was mesmerized, and he handpicked Merlin to be in his hit TV show, The Cosby Show. The two would swap contacts and Merlin would continue working while he waited to hear back from Mr. Cosby. Like I said, after the play, Merlin's career took off and the roles came flooding in. When he was around the age of 14, he played Marvin in the film Major Dad that aired in 1991. In the same year, he got another role in the hit TV show Law & Order, where he played Reynold Griggs. And he also got a part in The Cabinet of Dr. Ramirez as a newspaper boy. In 1992, he would get a role in the TV movie Line of Duty Street Wars, where he played Mickey.
You on drugs, little brother?
Come on, man, I ain't gonna grow up to be no crackhead.
And finally, Bill Cosby brought him on the 7th season of The Cosby Show as a guest star, where he played Stanley, and later a recurring role as Rudy's love interest on the 8th season of The Cosby Show.
Kenny, don't feel bad. I mean, it was just a matter of time before she saw through you anyway.
Merlin sank into his craft, and this protected him from the streets while some of his friends wound up dead or in jail. Merlin was slowly making a name for himself as an actor and talented rapper. In the year 1992, Merlin would move to Los Angeles, California to further his career, as most artists do. In 1993, he would get a role in the show Getting By, where he played Marcus Dixon.
Marcus is in the house and he's ashamed of his chicken brother.
He was also in an episode of Sister Sister where he played Joey.
I can't believe you're twins. How did this happen?
In 1995, he was part of the main cast of a show called Under One Roof, where he played Marcus Henry alongside Joe Morton, Vanessa Bell Calloway, and the legend James Earl Jones.
Mira, este es mi nieto. El papá de él fue el que tú casi le metiste una bala, así que no enseñe la cara por aquí o la cosa se va a poner heavy, mi hermano. ¿Tú me estás oyendo?
He also got a part in an episode of Hanging with Mr. Cooper from 1995 to 1996, and Moesha, where he played Ohaji from 1996 to 1999. In 1995, Merlin would have his only child, Melinda Santana, with his girlfriend. By this time, Merlin was an adult, and him previously being a child actor posed a threat to his career. Most child actors start losing roles and opportunities once they get older, but Merlin was in that small bracket called
Top 10 percentile,
where he still got offered mature roles. Staying away from the toxic Hollywood lifestyle and preferring to hide himself in the quiet, lush suburbs of the San Fernando Valley might have also helped him to stay focused. This would bring him his biggest opportunity, a role as Romeo Santana in the hit TV show The Steve Harvey Show from 1996 to 2002, where he got a chance to work with great comedians such as Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer. During this time, he became a heartthrob for most girls living in America at the time, and the show exposed him to new heights of fame, opportunity, and money. While he stayed in Los Angeles, Merlin would often go to visit his family back in New York, and when he did, he would sometimes hang out with some street dudes from the gang called YTC, the Yellow Top Crew. This is an interview with one of the members of YTC called Chango, who talked about Merlin.
Merlin had a fascination with the streets, man, and we used to try to tell like, yo, we wish we were you. And he wanna be us. You know, Merlin used to hang out with us, used to be in apartments, used to chill with us, you know what I'm saying? Joke around and be on the block.
He even mentioned YTC in one of his rap songs.
Cop info coming handy. That be my role model as a YTC.
Some believe it was at this time that Merlin started acting different and wild, where William Lee Scott, famously known as Bullethead from the Steve Harvey Show, said Merlin was too wild and unpredictable.
Merlin was a wild dude. He was super talented, but he was wild. And he was not, you couldn't tell him what to do, you couldn't tell him where to go. He wasn't afraid of anyone or anything.
He also stated that Steve Harvey tried to warn him and guide him.
Steve tried really hard with Merlin, and it's a very sensitive subject with him, one that probably he doesn't even want to discuss or talk about. Yeah, but every time Steve, I was front and center for it, so every time Steve tried, I saw Merlin go, nah, man.
Maybe the gang life rubbed off on him. Or maybe he was trying to shed his child actor persona as most child actors do. However, Merlin's career would continue to flourish, where he played Jermaine in the movie Flossin' in 2001, Showtime where he played Hector in 2002, and a film that emulated the East Coast-West Coast beef called Played, a hip-hop story where Merlin played Mayhem. He also played Dante Al Dente in the TV show Half and Half. The last film he was in was The Blues, where he played a man named Goya. However, he wouldn't make it to the premiere, or even see the film. While living in Los Angeles, Merlin would also pursue his music career with the help of his friend Jelani Alexander, who had a small home studio in the Crenshaw district. Which brings us to November 6th, 2002. Merlin was kicking it with another child actor who was also a close friend, Brandon Quinton Adams. Brandon was also successful and well known through his works in Michael Jackson's The Moonwalkers in 1988, The Sandlot in 1993, where he played Kenny De Nunez, and 1992's The Mighty Ducks, where he played Jesse Hall. On that fateful day on November 6, 2002, they went to a strip mall in Crenshaw at Stalker Avenue. Adams and Santana entered a Chinese restaurant where they had their lunch. They were approached by two teenage girls who recognized them and who sat down at the table with them. One of them, Monique King, also known as Mercedes, gave Santana her cell phone number. Later in the evening, at around 7 p.m., Mercedes phoned Santana, and he agreed to pick her up and another girl, Shaquita Harris, also known as Mika, at a Jack in the Box. Allegedly, the four went to Santana's condo in Studio City, where they spent the night drinking and having relations. At approximately 1 a.m. in the morning, Adams and Santana dropped the girls off in the Wilshire district. Adams and Santana didn't make any plans to get together with the girls again. On Friday, November 8th, 2002, Adams was having car trouble and borrowed his mother's rental car, a white Kia Rio. At about 10 p.m., he went to his friend Jelani Alexander's house and entered a room at the back of the house that Alexander used as a recording studio. Alexander and Santana were playing a video game while drinking cognac and smoking marijuana. Mercedes called Santana's phone and asked if she could come over. Adams gave her directions to Alexander's house on Victoria Avenue, which was about 5 minutes away from Mercedes' location at the mall at Crenshaw and Stalker. At about 11:30 p.m., Mercedes arrived at the house and entered through the back entrance. Mercedes went to the restroom and came out and sat down on the couch. She repeatedly put her head in her hand and acted nervous. Alexander did not believe she was intoxicated, but she was pretending to, because she didn't stumble when she walked in, and she was responsive to questions. Mercedes didn't have anything to drink while at Alexander's house. After about 20 minutes, Mercedes got a phone call, and she said that she had to meet someone outside because someone was going to drop something off. She repeated the directions Adams gave her to the house out loud on the phone and asked Alexander to let her out through the front door. Alexander told her to go through the back door. Alexander ran a video camera which taped the room, and the tape was running that night. Mercedes' behavior made both Adams and Alexander a little bit suspicious. Adams followed her out the door when she left, but he didn't let Mercedes know he was following her. He saw Mercedes get into a champagne SUV parked next door. The truck drove down the street about 2 blocks and stopped. Adams watched the truck for about 15 minutes until the lights went out, and then he returned to the house. Santana called Mercedes, but got no answer. So Santana and Adams got into the Kia Rio and drove to where the truck had been, but it had left. They made a U-turn and returned towards Alexander's house. They saw a truck at the corner of Victoria and 39th Street, but couldn't be sure if it was the same one. At around 2 a.m., Adams and Santana left Alexander's house. As they were coming down the driveway, they saw two men across the street standing at the driver's side window of a car talking to someone in the car. Adams saw a red beam flashing through the car, and about 6 or 7 rapid shots were fired through the car. He looked into the rearview mirror and saw two men running towards them. He drove a short distance and saw the two men jump into their car and pull after them. Adams saw the men were wearing hats and had weapons in their hands, but he couldn't see their faces. Adams observes that Santana was bleeding but kept telling him to hold on. Adams drove to the intersection of Rodeo and Crenshaw, where a policeman flagged him down. Adams, however, was not injured, but Santana was. One of the bullets from the rifle hit the trunk of the car and went through the back seat and through the headrest of the passenger seat and into Merlin Santana's head, killing him instantly at the age of 26. The next morning, at the request of the police, Adams called Mercedes and agreed to meet her at a Jack in the Box. Adams went to the Jack in the Box with the police and pointed her out. Police got Mercedes and brought her in for questioning. During her interview, she lied about her name, her age, and her address, and her story of the events of the previous night kept changing. However, she would later cooperate, and when police got her cell phone, which contained both Santana's number and another man's number under the name of Kid, Mercedes' phone records indicated she phoned Kid 4 times on November 9th, 2002, 1:58 a.m., 1:59 a.m., 2:02 a.m., and 2:03 a.m. Police forensic technicians also found 9 gunshot casings in the area around 39th Street and Victoria Avenue. The shell casings were all fired from the same weapon and were originally designed to be used in an M130 carabine. However, the trigger of Kid's gun had to be squeezed 9 times to fire 9 bullets. On November 21st, 2002, police executed a search warrant for Kid's home. Police seized a cell phone bearing the same phone number as the one found on Mercedes' phone. They also found a black New York baseball cap and an .30 caliber live cartridge under Kid's bed, which was the same caliber as the shell casings found at the scene of the shooting. Kid's aunt had rented a gray Dodge SUV, which was returned later in the day after Santana was shot. Detectives would arrest Kid, whose real name is Damien Andre Gates, age 20. Police would also arrest another suspect, a 23-year-old man named Brandon Douglas Bynes, who went by the name of Busy. Detectives interviewed Kid on November 21st, 2002, and he denied knowing Mercedes or Mika before the night of the shooting, but he admitted to driving the rented gray Dodge Durango SUV that day. At first, Kid denied any involvement in the shooting, but admitted he was in the shooting and that he used the pistol. During Busy's interview, he also denied being involved in the shooting, but later he would admit to the shooting, and he also claimed that he used the pistol. Neither man wanted to admit they used the rifle because it was indeed the murder weapon. When Mercedes was asked, he claimed that Kid used the rifle and Busy used the pistol. According to Mika, her and Mercedes were both runaways at the time of the shooting. It should also be noted that Mercedes' real name is Monique King, and she was 15 years old at the time of the shooting. At around 8 p.m. on the evening of the shooting, she met up with Busy and Kid, which was the first time she met Kid. They bought some liquor and took some pills which they believe were ecstasy and went and parked. Later, they got a phone call from Mercedes, and Kid said somebody was trying to take advantage of Mercedes. She told him that when she got to the house, they told her to sit on the floor and to take off all her clothes, and they had a video camera set up. Initially, Kid didn't believe her. Busy and Kid stopped and got out of the car and walked towards the corner. After about 10 minutes, they came back to the car and told her they were going to handle it. They went to Kid's house, which was about 15 minutes away from Alexander's house, where Busy and Kid went into the house and returned with a rifle and a pistol in a duffel bag. They went back to Victoria Street and parked right next to Alexander's house. Kid started loading his rifle. Busy had the pistol. Their plan was to go shoot the house. At that time, Mercedes came out and jumped into the car. Busy and Kid, who were out of the car, began jogging up the street towards a white car. Mercedes heard 6 or 7 shots and drove the car over and picked up Kid and Busy. Monique King, Brandon Douglas Bynes, and Damien Andre Gates were all charged with the murder of Merlin Santana and the attempted murder of Brandon Quinton Adams. Brandon Douglas Bynes, also known as Busy, pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter and assault with a deadly weapon. He was sentenced to 23 years in prison. Damien and Monique pled not guilty, and they went to trial, where Monique was tried as an adult. At the trial, Damien testified on his own behalf. He said he met Mercedes and Mika the night of the shooting, when he and Busy were driving down Crenshaw near Stalker. He saw the girls and pulled over and began talking to them. The girls asked for a ride to the store, and when they got into the car, they went to a liquor store. Mercedes told them that she had a date, but wanted to wait for a call first. They consumed some alcohol and each took 2 ecstasy pills. They dropped Mercedes off at Alexander's house and headed to a Del Taco, but they had to stop before they got there because Damien was feeling dizzy. Mercedes called and asked him to come get her. Damien started driving, and Mercedes would call again, this time more hysterical, asking him to hurry up. They drove by the house, saw Mercedes coming out, and picked her up. Her face was covered in tears, she was crying, and her clothes were all mangled. Mercedes told them she had been taken advantage of, and Damien blew into a rage. Damien pulled the SUV over and got out because he was upset. He drove to his house, which was just a few minutes away. He grabbed a bag with a rifle inside and went back to Alexander's house. Damien started to get out of the car and took a deep breath. He heard someone in the car say, "There they go," and he took off and started firing. The rifle was old and beat up and was stuck in automatic mode, and it had a laser sight on the top. Damien later stated that he didn't remember anything else about the shooting since he was in a rage and he wasn't thinking about what he was doing. He was just firing the gun. He would later sell the gun a day or 2 after the shooting. Monique also revealed that she was never assaulted and she lied about being taken advantage of. However, Damien Andre Gates was charged with the murder of Merlin Santana, the attempted murder of Brandon Quinton Adams, and additional gun charges where he was served a sentence of 70 years to life in prison. Monique was found guilty of the second-degree murder of Merlin Santana and the attempted murder of Brandon Quinton Adams, where she was served a sentence of 10 years in the California Youth Authority, and she was later released and probably still walks among us. Merlin Santana is survived by his daughter, Melinda Santana, who graduated from New York University with a degree in nursing. He's also survived by his brother, Aramelki Santana, who has a YouTube channel where sometimes he shares stories about Merlin, and he also named his son Merlin. I also believe that Merlin's legacy will live on forever through his numerous films and the love of his fans. Let this story be a lesson that a lie can turn fatal, and taking a second to think before you act is a crucial thing in life, especially when you're angry. You might do something or say something you'll regret for the rest of your life. To all the people watching this, just because a woman said something doesn't make it automatically true. A lot of good men are either in prison, jobless, or dead because someone never questioned the validity of the statements made by a crying woman. Ladies and gentlemen, another day, another case, and this one looks like it's all the way solved. And my time here is up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment down below. Till next time, always remember to keep trekking, fam.